There has been tens upon thousands of kids that have graduated from this high school right here, San Fernando High School. Most of them not famous, some of them famous, some of them having very successful careers, some in sports, some in politics. And a couple of kids that used to go to this high school, they didn't get a chance to graduate. One of them, Richie Valens. And another one is Missy Avila. I am Lamont at large. Today we are in the San Fernando Valley here in Southern California. We're going to talk about the murder of Missy Avila. We all remember when we were kids, right? Particularly if you were a kid and you were in the second grade or the third grade or the fourth grade and you had a best friend and they would go to your house, you would go to theirs. Their mothers and fathers would treat you just like you were their own child. And then when you go to junior high, your tastes, they change, right? And you might start hanging out with different people, but you'll still remain friends with the same best friend that you were best friends with when you were a little kid. And then you get high school. And sometimes these high schools, they'll make or break you. And high school, that's when things really change. That's when you start going to school and there's girls that are almost women, and there's guys that are almost men, and some of these dudes have beards, and some of them are really tall. And you'll always have your nerds, you'll have your geeks, you'll have your jocks, you'll have your misfits, your outcasts, and then you'll have the popular chick, the cute chick, the handsome jock, the quarterback on the football team, whatever. And then the same people you were friends with when you were a little kid, when you were 8 years old, now you drift apart. Maybe you're still friends, but you discover new friends. And then that's just the way it works a lot of the time. Now, back when she was 8 years old, Missy Avila, who was commonly referred to as Missy, was best friends with a girl. Her name was Karen Severson. And this story that I just kind of told you, that's kind of what happened to them. They were best friends when they were 8 years old in grade school. And then their relationship slowly changed coming up to this very high school right here. And while Missy, barely being 5 feet tall, not even weighing 100 pounds, very small, petite, cute, outgoing, big personality. A lot of people loved her, liked her, wanted to be friends with her. A lot of the guys, they had a crush on her, always trying to talk to her. And Missy's friend Karen, not so much. She was big. She wasn't particularly attractive. She would be the chick that, when people are asking each other to the dance, she's probably dancing by herself. Or she's with a guy, and the only reason why he's taking her to the dance is because, well, let's just face it, he's probably going to get some action after the dance is over. Now, as Missy is at this school, she's popular. She is becoming friends with different people. She's doing her own thing. She's almost a debutante here. Karen, not so much. And I'm not sure why or how this worked, but Karen is a hater. She is so freaking jealous of Missy, and it makes her sick. To tell you the truth, she wants to be Missy. She wants to be just like her. She wished she looked like her. She wished she acted like her. As a matter of fact, she started acting like her. She started speaking like her. And no matter what she tried to do, you're just not her. You're you. Be better at being you, not trying to be somebody that you're not. And this jealousy and this rage, and Missy probably doesn't know anything about this at the time, but Karen is just talking crap about her. She's like talking to her friends about how this little this and that, and she's such a B word and blah, blah, blah. And over the course of several months, going from the 10th grade to the 11th grade, she almost becomes obsessed with this girl. She can't seem to get her out of her head. So at these lunch tables, the cafeteria, that's when Karen would start spreading these rumors about Missy. She would go up to each and every single one of these tables at nutrition, or at lunch, or at whatever, in between classes. Missy's a skank, Missy's a whore, she's sleeping with every one of your guys' boyfriends. That's the new rumor here at San Fernando High School, 1985, is that Missy is kissing all the boys. She's easy. She's a quote-unquote home wrecker, whatever you might want to call it. And, you know, we don't have the internet back in the 1980s, but word is spreading like wildfire. Oh, did you hear the latest gossip about Missy? And next thing you know, you got all these girls out here, all these girls who are gunning for Missy or wanting to put hands on her because they think that their boyfriends are interested in her and that she's going around behind the bleachers and kissing all of them. Nothing but lies and innuendo being spread up and down the halls here at San Fernando Valley High School. So back in the summer of 1985, some of these girls out here, they get together and they're gonna teach Missy a thing or two about messing with their boyfriends, as ridiculous as this sounds. So these girls are getting riled up, and they're getting riled up by their leader, Sonia Bond. So this chick gets all of these girls to surround Missy, and they jump her and they beat the tar out of her. And Missy gets beat up and she goes home, and her mother says, "What happened to you?" Her clothes are ripped, she's got scratches on her face, and she said, "These girls jumped me because they're saying that I'm messing with their boyfriend." So Irene Avila, Missy's mother at the time, goes to the police department to file charges against these girls. So she gets all of their names and she files a police report. However, in particular, when it comes to juvenile justice, the cog turns even more slowly than it normally does. So Missy will have her day in court, but it's going to be a while, and she's going to, she is going to press charges, and her mother's going to make sure that the girls that put their hands on her daughter are hopefully get arrested, get into some kind of trouble, and hopefully the Avilas will have their day in court. This here is Stonehurst Park, or as the kids back in the days called it, Stoners Park. This is the park where the neighborhood kids would come at night, drink beer, smoke a little bit of weed, kiss. This was the park that Missy would hang out at sometimes. And 1985, October 1st, Missy tells her mother, "Hey, I'm gonna go with my friend Laura. We're gonna go hang out at the park." She says, "Fine, be back by 6 p.m. So she hops in Laura's car and they jet out. They would come to this park right here. So you fast forward a few hours later, and Now it's way past 6 p.m. and Missy has not came home yet. Now, she normally doesn't do that. When Irene tells her daughter to be home at a certain time, she usually is. If anything comes up, I'm sure she'll just call from a payphone or from a friend's house and say, hey, I'm running a little late. So Laura Doyle calls Missy's house and she says, hey, is Missy home? And Irene says, no, I thought she was with you. And Laura's like, no, we went to the park and there is these guys and she was friends with. I didn't know who they were, so she went up to them and started talking to them. And I had to go get gas, and so I went to go get gas and I came back and she was gone. And her mother's like, well, who the hell are these guys? That doesn't even make any sense. Your friend is talking to these dudes in a blue Camaro. You never seen them before, and you just leave your friend hanging by herself and just go get gas. You don't wait for your friend. That doesn't make any sense. So now Irene gets nervous because it's dark and her daughter is not home yet. So 10 p.m., 11 p.m. passes. There's no word from Missy. Midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. Now, as a parent, I can only imagine you start thinking of all the terrible things that could possibly happen. And then you're in bed, you're pacing back and forth, you're in the living room, you're waiting on the couch, on that chair, and you're looking at that front door, and you're waiting for your daughter to come through that door, and you're gonna like, oh, you're grounded for 2 weeks, or maybe you'll throw something at her or whatever, because you're upset. And 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, that doorknob is not turning. Missy would not come home the next day, or sadly, any days thereafter. So it would be about 3 years. 3 years. Your daughter's been murdered. She's buried in the ground, and you don't know who did this to her. You don't know what happened. And in the meantime, her friends, they would go to her funeral, and Laura, she would be racked with guilt. And Karen, for a time, she actually moved in with the Avilas, and she almost became a surrogate daughter to Irene. And she would sleep in Missy's room. She would hang up pictures of her. She would cry with Irene for those 3 years. Check on her and see, is everything okay? Her and Laura both. And they would actually go hang up flyers or do whatever they can do to get the word out there. We're looking for a killer, maybe a serial killer. He could be doing this to other people's daughters. Those 3 years, you don't know who did this to your daughter, and you don't know where they're at. Those 3 years, a very, very shocking turn of events would happen. So one of Missy's friends, her name is Eva Cherambulo. So she goes to the police department and she says, I need to talk to somebody. And one of the detectives, they know who she is, and they said, what's going on? And she says, I know who killed Missy Avila. And they said, okay, tell us what you know. This girl says that Karen Severson and Laura Doyle, they killed Missy. Is that so? And basically, to summarize the story, These two witches came to this park on that day, October 1st, 1985, and they made a ruse pretending that Karen and Laura were fighting with each other and that they were getting into a fight from one car to the other. And they would go on some kind of a high-speed chase while cussing each other out. And they would go in that direction towards Big Tahunga Canyon. And when they got to an area, the jig was up. They told Missy, oh, no, we're not fighting between each other. We don't like you. And right in front of Eva, they dragged her into the forest, into the creek. And mind you, Karen is a big person. She weighs over 200 pounds. And she's at least, 3-4 inches bigger, taller than Missy. And her and Laura both beat this girl and drowned her in the creek until she stopped moving. And Eva, who in my opinion should have been thrown in prison along with those two clowns, murderous clowns, by the way, she runs out of the forest. She can't watch this. She just can't watch this. And they drowned her until she stopped moving. And then they walked out of the forest. 3 walked in, 2 walked out. So they're driving away back towards the neighborhood, and Laura is laughing about what they just did. She said, we killed Missy. We killed her. We finally killed her. And Eva, she can't believe her ears. This girl, this Shirambolo, however you say her name. When I was 17 years old, girl, let me tell you, when I was 17 years old, I never watched somebody get killed. I wouldn't do that. I would defend them, even if I didn't like them. And I think practically everybody watching this video would say the same. But she watched this girl basically die and didn't do anything. She could have yelled, she could have screamed, she could have hit one of them in the face with a shoe or something. You could have totally prevented this from happening. And as far as I'm concerned, she is damn near just as culpable in this crime as those two thugs are. And to kill somebody and then you laugh? What's so funny? I'm a sick woman. This broad is. Absolutely unreal. October 4th, 1985, 3 days after the last time Irene seen her daughter alive, a couple of hikers were in the Angeles National Forest right here, right off of Big Tahunga Canyon Road. And that is where they discovered the body of a young girl laying face down in a stream with a heavy log sitting on the top of her back. This sadly was Missy Avila. I'm not exactly sure where her body was found, but it was somewhere out here in this forest where she was brutally murdered. Eventually, Karen Severson and Laura Doyle were each arrested and charged with first-degree murder, kidnapping, false imprisonment, and aiding in the commission of a felony. However, the jury during the trial, even though these two thugs, they were denying that they had anything to do with the murder, Ava's testimony sealed their fate. But the jury had a problem, and I don't know Some of these stories about these juries make me scratch my head and wonder who these people are that have all kinds of free time to serve on these juries. But they had a hard time distinguishing what first-degree murder was, which is premeditated murder in California, and second-degree murder, which is just, and I'm using air quotes here, regular murder. So the jury did not convict the girls on first-degree premeditated, even though it exactly was premeditated. In my opinion, anyways, they were found guilty of second-degree murder, and they were each sentenced to 15 years to life. Severson, she eventually did about a little over 20 years, and she got out in, I believe, 2011. And Laura Doyle, she did 21 and a half years, and she would get out in 2012, the end of that year, for this girl's murder. Two jealous witches one of them outweighing her by double, and the worst way, one of the worst ways possible to be murdered. Remember when you came here in your vehicle and you came to visit the girl that you killed, and when you went to start your vehicle, it wouldn't start, and you screamed out loud, "Missy, let me go. Missy, let me go." Just remember, she will never let you go. You should carry this to your grave, both of you. This might be the worst case of being a hater I've ever did a video about.